There is a quiet moment that happens for a lot of people sometime in their 30s or early 40s. It doesn't arrive dramatically. There's no sudden crisis, no missed payment, no alarming email. It usually happens on an ordinary evening. The dishes are done, the apartment is quiet, a laptop is open on the kitchen table, not because anything urgent needs to be done, but because it's habit. On the screen is a number, a net worth tracker, a retirement estimate, a savings account balance. The number isn't zero, it isn't embarrassing, it isn't even technically bad, but it's smaller than expected. Not smaller compared to other people, smaller compared to time. There's an unspoken assumption most people carry through their 20s and early 30s that if they work steadily, avoid obvious mistakes, and live reasonably, the math will take care of itself. Not quickly, not dramatically, but eventually. And yet, here is the number. After years of effort, after promotions, raises, degrees, long commutes, careful choices, the progress feels thin. No panic follows this realization, just a dull intellectual discomfort, the sense that something is slightly off but not clearly broken, that the system is working, just not generously. This is the moment where many people start searching for answers, strategies, optimizations, explanations. But before any of that, there's something more important happening. They are noticing the distance between effort and outcome. Not because they failed, but because the math is quieter than they expected. And the quietness is unsettling. The person in this story lives an unremarkable financial life. Their after-tax income arrives twice a month. It's steady, predictable, enough to cover necessities and a bit more. Rent, or a modest mortgage, takes the largest share. Not excessive, not cheap either. It reflects the reality of living near work, near schools, near transit. Utilities are automatic. Electricity, water, internet strong enough for video calls that run long. Transportation is practical. A mid-range car with a payment that feels reasonable, or a monthly public transit pass that quietly renews itself. There are student loans, not crushing, but persistent, a number that moves down slowly, like a glacier. There's also a credit card, used responsibly, paid off most months, occasionally carrying a balance longer than planned. The lifestyle looks restrained from the outside, few luxuries, no extravagant purchases, but there are subscriptions, streaming services, cloud storage, a gym membership used just often enough to justify keeping it. There's dining out, not fine dining, just tired evenings where cooking feels heavier than spending. There's an occasional trip, a flight to see family, a long weekend somewhere warm or culturally familiar. None of this feels reckless, it feels normal. At the end of most months, there is a remainder. Not large, but positive. Some of it goes into savings, some into retirement accounts, enough to feel responsible. Years pass this way. The life feels full, busy, functional. And yet, when that laptop opens at night, the numbers tell a quieter story. Not one of disaster, just one of limited acceleration. What's happening here isn't a mistake, it's a pattern. Modern financial systems are designed to make stability feel like progress. Bills are smoothed into monthly amounts. Debt is normalized into manageable payments. Consumption is broken into subscriptions so small they escape attention. The system doesn't punish irresponsibility immediately. It absorbs it, spreads it out, softens it. Even savings are framed this way. Percentages instead of outcomes, contributions instead of totals. So someone can do everything right in a behavioral sense and still feel stuck. Because the system prioritizes continuity over accumulation. Income arrives, expenses leave, and whatever remains is asked to perform miracles over decades. The structure nudges people toward maintaining their current lifestyle first and building optionality second. Not maliciously, just mechanically.
Nothing in the system asks a person to pause and examine whether the default pace actually leads where they assume it does. And because there's no immediate penalty, there's no urgency to question it. Life feels stable, comfortable, controlled. But stability is not the same as momentum, and over long periods of time, the difference matters. Imagine this person manages to save $100,000 by their mid-30s. That number sounds substantial, because it is. It represents discipline, years of consistency, delayed spending. Now, imagine that money grows quietly over time, not through speculation, not through dramatic bets, just through steady, long-term market participation. If that money compounds at a modest historical rate over several decades, it can grow into something much larger. This is where the idea of $5 million enters the conversation, not as a promise, not as a target, but as a mathematical outcome under very specific conditions: time, consistency, and minimal interruption. The math itself isn't complicated. What's complicated is preserving the conditions long enough for the math to matter. Because every dollar not invested early is a dollar that never compounds. Every lifestyle expansion increases the pressure to interrupt the process later. The difference between reaching a large number and not isn't usually income, it's friction. Small, quiet frictions repeated over decades. The math doesn't fail, it's just rarely given space to work uninterrupted. This isn't financial advice, it's simply how compounding behaves over long periods when left alone.
Most people understand this math intellectually. The problem isn't ignorance, it's context. Humans don't live in spreadsheets. They live among other humans. Lifestyles normalize quickly. What once felt like a luxury becomes baseline, then expected. Social comparison isn't loud, it's ambient. A colleague buys a larger home, a friend upgrades their car, a neighbor takes nicer vacations. No one feels pressure explicitly, but the reference point shifts. Identity quietly attaches itself to the life being lived, the neighborhood, the school district, the habits. Stepping back feels like moving backward, even if the numbers say otherwise. So smart, thoughtful people make choices that preserve identity and comfort, even when those choices slow long-term optionality. Not because they're careless, because they're human. The system rewards consistency of consumption far more visibly than consistency of restraint. If nothing changes, nothing breaks. Life continues. Bills get paid, work continues, but options narrow quietly. Career flexibility decreases. Time becomes more expensive. Risk feels heavier. Retirement doesn't disappear, it just arrives with fewer degrees of freedom. Not catastrophic, just constrained. The cost isn't failure, it's missed choice. Financially calm people don't obsess over returns. They think in margins, in time, in resilience. They view money as a buffer against forced decisions, not a scorecard. Their focus isn't maximizing, it's stabilizing. Not tactics, just perspective. The math that turns $100,000 into something much larger isn't secret. What's rare is the environment required for it to work. Time, consistency, and enough calm to let it unfold. If this helped clarify things, consider subscribing. And then, quietly, let the numbers sit.